Hello, and welcome back to the True Crime Guys podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Michael.
Hey, Michael, we're going back to North Carolina.
All right. Why not, right? It's been at least a week or two since we've been here, it feels like.
Hey, there's some good stuff going on down there, apparently.
I don't know about good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not in this
stuff.
case. Not in this case. I mean, there is good stuff happening here, and bad stuff, just like everywhere else.
I feel like the contrast between good and evil is just so obvious and clear down there that it makes for really compelling true crime, It's just like...
It does.
It's the Bible Belt. Most people are, at church on Sunday, on their ride on lawnmowers on Saturday, and doing little cookouts or whatever. And like the 4th of July parade is massive. And then you got those outsiders, though, that just say, fuck your society.
But you have to have them, right? I mean, that's what makes those people so much more powerful in these areas, too.
Yes.
Is because with the great sense of good, I'm using it in quotes, or whatever it is, they also believe in a certain evil that has to exist.
Yeah, and you know what? Now that you mention it, I almost think that the people in this area they wouldn't admit it, but they're kind of happy that there was a Pazuzu around because they could point, their children out and be like, that's evil. That's evil the devil's at work right there.
That's what the devil can do to you.
That's why we go to church. That's why we pray to the Lord, because look at him.
Yes, the Lord will protect you from people like that.
Yep.
Because he's afraid of God. But
meanwhile, someone like Pazuzu just embraced evil and loved to get off on, the fear that everyone else had when he was around.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. He just wanted to go against the grain in every way, shape, and form. And in a small town in the Bible Belt, that's not hard to do because most of the people are following the same grain. But Winston-Salem has grown a lot since 2009, though, to be fair. It has grown quite a bit in 2015. It's becoming a lot more progressive town. A lot more people from around the country, from up north, are moving to Winston-Salem. It's becoming a much more diverse city nowadays.
Interesting. I wonder how much resistance there is from the old timers that have been there for a long time.
Oh yeah, there's a lot, and you're certainly going to have that. But I do know that, their live music scene, their local bands, and things like that are really picking up. They got some really cool venues down there to play at. They got a lot more going on than what I watched a Vice documentary on. I'm sure you did.
What is it?
Too.
What would you say? It's like an hour drive for you to get there?
It's about an hour and a half. Yeah. So not bad at all.
Right on. Well, we'll learn some more about Winston-Salem, and we're going to learn all about Pazuzu Algarad in this week's episode.
Right on.
Let's do it.
He always said mom, of course. Shakamuku, which means what's up in Arabic. He says, I'm so bored. Got a letter from you and one from Amber. I despise the human race. People are ugly, pointless creatures. I sit back and watch them and they anger me. I should get a medal for murdering these stupid. Maybe when I'm dead, the gods of chaos shall grant me the power. I mean, he was so hurt and angry, and so how's things your way when you and Kim coming to see me again? Well, I'm hungry and tired, so I'll write you again here soon. I love you.
Haven't we heard this one before? Oh, she loved him too much. Her son, she adored. She loved the way he'd make her laugh, but the other half was twice as bad, and even the laughs grew twice as sad. Holding hands with fear, anxiety, but he was all she had. Bowing to every request, answering yes to every test, she was not his only conquest. There were others that answered the call, pledged their allegiance to Pazuzu. Now what are they gonna do? Like all over the floors, it's doo-doo. Oh my Gaia, please help Pazuzu. Gods of chaos can't even help him. They like, nah, we way up here and we can smell him. He always got what he wanted and he wanted more. Each act grew more vicious than the one before. Laughing through crying, she still adores him. He ran her life and he wanted more of them. Lives, I mean. This is no reincarnation scene. Pazuzu was so unclean. He wanted more of them. Lives, I mean. He was so unclean.
All right, our case this week, we were doing Pazuzu Algarad, the self-named Pazuzu Algarad, because John Lawson just isn't demonic enough, you know?
I mean, it's close, but it's just not quite scary, right?
Right.
It's not quite there. It doesn't really strike fear in the hearts like Pazuzu does.
Right. And when you look into it, it's just kind of so cheap, the names he picked, Pazuzu being the demon from The Exorcist. It's kind of like, I don't know.
It's like the most popular demon.
It's like an 8-year-old kid trying to sound scary, you know?
Yeah. It's like, do you even dark arts, bro? You don't know any deeper demons than that?
Right.
You just go with the surface one, the Exorcist.
Yeah, supposedly he worshipped the like multi-headed dragon from Dungeons and Dragons. We'll get to that later as well. And it's just like, I don't know, you're just taking your shit from pop culture and then using that and acting like it's true demonic, like you're worshiping Satan in ancient societies and stuff, but you just took it from a movie and a fucking board game, like, I don't know.
Right. He's trying to be like all deep.
Yeah. He's just a dum-dum, really, is what it comes down to.
Oh, yeah. He was just someone who was just an extreme contrarian and found his niche in that.
And did a lot of drugs.
Yes, a lot of drugs and a lot of violence. There was just no rules. He just thrived on, it's like the less rules, the better off it was. And his home and his property was a place of insanity. Like
it was a magnetic, had a magnetic draw for young lost souls, people that, you know, maybe they had ultra religious households and they didn't feel like they could ever be themselves or whatever. They were drawn to Pazuzu because they could go to his house and do whatever the hell they wanted, act out their darkest fantasies, and that gave him power. That made him scary because he did provide that for them.
Oh, absolutely. And not only could they not do these things in their own households, they couldn't do these things in their community.
No.
I mean,
and rightfully so. Most of the stuff they were doing there.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Let's not act like it's.
You probably shouldn't do it in most communities. I mean, I think you would get arrested on the Strip in Vegas for doing many of these things. So, I wouldn't say they'd be able to do it in Winston-Salem.
So our main study source for this episode was a series called The Devil You Know, which was made by Viceland, and there was an investigative reporter. Editor-in-chief of the Camel City Dispatch, a local news blog founded in 2012, centered around Salem, North Carolina. His name's Chad Nance, and he wrote and investigated this story involving Pazuzu Algarad and went in deep with it. And he was basically telling the story in this series. It was 5 parts, really well done. It almost had the feel of like an HBO docuseries or something like that. Definitely recommend it. They did a little bit of dragging it out as it went on and like repeating stuff as they tend to do in these TV series based around crime.
That's right.
A lot of regurgitation of the same stuff, but ultimately really well done. A lot of the characters from this case are interviewed in it and give their take on Pazuzu and what all happened. Many of them a little bit too kind. Like they still like, I still miss my friend. Like, I don't know, bro. Like 1 minute, the one guy, we'll talk about him. Matt Nick. Flowers. He was focused Flowers in this. Too, yeah. He was back and forth, but also he's struggled with a lot of stuff. I mean, that dude strung out as well on drugs.
I was super surprised at the kind light that some of them still casted on him, talking about like, he was kind of like a crazy genius, and it's like, was he though? No, he was not. It's just because you didn't get killed. You know what I mean? It's just because he didn't target his friends. He didn't target his people. He targeted random people.
Yes.
And it made him seem edgy. And it also kept a distance and a disconnection between his friends and the victims, which
well, also he liked power, as people like this tend to do. And, the more followers or friends, quote unquote, that he had, he wouldn't want to kill one of them, people, because it made him more, having more people around him like him, not necessarily as extreme as him, but like people that live that kind of filthy lifestyle, the more of those he had, the more power he had. Yeah,
no doubt. He boosted them up and they boosted him up.
So as we kind of talked about, this story takes place in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, in the Bible Belt, known as a wholesome conservative community. The vast majority of residents in Winston-Salem were at church every Sunday, proudly waved their American flags in the massive yearly 4th of July parade. That parade was impressive that I saw in the docuseries. It was...
Oh, yeah, you like that?
Yeah, like it's not like that in Vegas. It's not that big.
Oh, wow, that's pretty typical here. Yeah, even small towns have a pretty decent parade. Yeah, everybody gets involved. People that have cool cars, people that have dance clubs, karate schools. Everybody gets involved in parades in the South, man. They got nothing better to do.
Yeah. That's like their big thing, man, America's birthday.
Yeah, and it's a good way. It's a good way to show off everyone, local businesses and stuff. That's why a lot of people, so many people get involved in it. You know what I mean? You're marching right down
free
Main
advertising, essentially.
Street. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, however, as in most communities, there were outsiders. None more infamous in Forsyth County than Pazuzu Algarad, who was just that scary figure that, as we kind of briefly mentioned, that people could point to. Godly people point to and be like, that's why we do this, because the devil's around us, and there's people
He's
like
real.
that acting out the devil's fantasies, and
That's right.
However, he was originally born John Lawson before changing his name to Pazuzu, which is the demon in The Exorcist. He's basically like a Rob Zombie film character come to life. That's all I could think about when I saw him. He's just like, I just
Pretty
thought
much.
about Rob Zombie films when I saw him.
Yeah, he's even got the dreads and the face
Yes.
tats.
Literally,
the
like
creepy
Rob Zombie
eyes.
could make a movie based around Pazuzu, and it would freak you the fuck out.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. He could probably just film Pazuzu's life and
He
then
could just
add some
act
of his
him
own
out.
music.
I bet he could pull it off, like being him.
Oh, yeah.
Shave his head, and
He'd have to shave his beard too, wouldn't he?
he already has the smell down. I imagine they don't smell too much different. Him and Rob Zombie. Just
Come on.
they
Rob
bathe
Zombie
about
probably
the
lives in
same
a
amount, I think.
mansion, bro. Rob Zombie probably lives in like a solid white and gold mansion or
I know.
something. It's all the look now.
I know. But the filth that you get in Rob Zombie films, that is Pazuzu
Yeah.
encapsulated
Yeah.
right there. The dude showered like once a year intentionally.
No doubt. You don't want to wash off those natural oils.
Right. That's true, man. You'll get sick as soon as you wash that off.
That's right.
And then everyone else around you will stop getting sick.
Yeah, you selfish asshole.
Just flies swarming around him. I can only imagine.
I feel fine. I don't know what's wrong with you guys.
Yeah, right. Yep. He was patient zero for COVID for sure.
Oh yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt. He looks like a fucking live zombie.
So he allegedly worshipped the five-headed dragon goddess named Tiamat, which was ancient Babylon religion. But ultimately, Tiamat is also in Dungeons and Dragons. So I have a
Probably
feeling that's
where
where
he
he got
heard
it
it.
from. Not from deep studying of ancient cultures and religions, but pop culture more likely.
Yeah, more likely.
Some of the people that knew Pazuzu were in the series The Devil You Know. Some of these characters were Crazy Dave Adams, who looks about what you would imagine. What was the tattoo across his chest? It said like madness or something along
It
those
said
lines.
something insane. Something insane.
Insane. It said insane, literally in big letters
Yeah.
across his chest. And he
He
was
kind
there
of
for.
reminds me.
Go ahead.
He kind of reminds me of like a trashier Dave Navarro.
Yeah,
You know,
that's saying something too. Even trashier.
trashier Dave Navarro. I mean, I don't know. He's just got the long black hair. You can tell he probably, wears black a lot.
Yeah.
In the interview, he was shirtless. That's how we knew his tattoo on his chest.
You know, he also reminded me of in Tiger King, the one boyfriend that he had
Oh yeah,
with the
Yeah.
tattoos. He had that same
Yeah.
vibe. Doing the interview shirtless and all that.
they asked him to do that in Tiger King though.
Yeah. Well, of
Yeah,
course,
that was-
it's better TV.
yeah. Right. I don't know about old Crazy Dave though. He may have just decided to be shirtless. I could just imagine Vice showing up at his house and he's like, "Yeah, you guys sit over there. I'll sit on the couch right here.
Yeah,
Let's go."
just smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Also, a big role in this was Matt Flowers, who's a punk rock musician and Iraq war vet, and he was interesting. He was compelling. Just the dude was all over the place, but the camera loves that guy. He just every time he's on there, you want to hear what he's going to say, and he's very dramatic. Like with every word he chooses perfectly, and then takes a draw off the cigarette, and like really just. He's deep reflecting on his time with Pazuzu throughout the whole series. He was interesting.
Yeah, no doubt. But that dude's has obviously seen some shit too.
Oh, for
like,
sure.
He's
For sure.
seen a lot of drama.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
and
he fought in
probably a
Iraq,
lot of death.
and then he
yeah.
was around Pazuzu. So yeah, he's seen the dark sides of society and life.
Yes, no doubt. That's obvious.
The series also followed around a guy named Nate, who was a heroin addict, along with his girlfriend, and that was just interesting to see the lives of like hardcore heroin addicts. It was kind of like watching the show Intervention with those two, as they're they're just sitting around. They're always trying to come up with ways to get money to calling Nate's mom, calling Nate's grandma, trying to get more heroin, but also Nate's sitting back and talking about his time that he spent with Pazuzu.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll go through more of these characters. There's a lot of people in this story surrounding this. But let's give a little bit more description on Pazuzu. He had low-grade tattoos on his face to go along with sharp teeth that he had ground down using a Dremel while high on meth. So had quite a look. He's a guy that he's going to turn some heads when he goes to the grocery store.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
He clearly embraced being different in a place where most people were afraid to be different, and he claimed to get power from fear. He lived with his mother in the home that he grew up in Clemens, North Carolina, which is just outside of...
Yeah, same county.
Yeah. However, his mother was sequestered to her bedroom in the back of the house during the latter years of this run, while Pazuzu and his friends/followers did literally whatever they felt like doing. This house was as bad as anything you've ever seen in Hoarders. Not as much clutter as like Hoarders, but the filth and disgust, like just the stench. People talked about the stench would hit you like as soon as you got in the front yard.
Yeah. But I would still say as much clutter, but it was just all trash because it was all on the floor.
Yes. Yeah, there was definitely trash and shit like that, and literal shit and piss all over the floors. Shit.
Yeah.
A bunch of dogs, and I imagine a bunch of dog feces and piss everywhere as well.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I mean, it wasn't stacked to the ceiling like you see some hoarders' houses, but I mean, just floors covered in most of the bedrooms and living rooms, and walls were covered with markings and posters and scribbles and paint. It was an insane place, man, to look at. Yeah.
As we mentioned earlier, he'd become a magnet for young people, young lost souls, and because he'd created such an environment at this house, completely judgment-free, in which anyone could do anything, really. It's said that you could just go up and smash a beer bottle over your friend's head, or you could, people would get so high and drunk that they would, rather than go to the bathroom, they would just take a crap in the corner of the room, and then this is disgusting, but then the dogs would most likely go and eat it. It was just absolutely, people were naked half the time in the house, and there was just absolutely zero rules in this place. It was the devil's lair, essentially.
Right. Insane.
Yeah. He virtually never bathed, Pazuzu, because he believed that filth gave him more power. It said that he bathed no more than once a year, and he had not brushed his teeth in years. He felt that such actions stripped the body of its defenses in warding off infections and illness. Because, our societies back in the mid-centuries and things like that helped them out so much to not get the plague and all of that,
Yes. It was really good for them living in all that rat filth.
Right. I mean, that's when we had our worst
we wouldn't be
events in history as far as like mass death,
right,
and disease was when people bathed less. So this is a great theory he's got here.
Yeah, exactly. Not to mention the circumstances. I mean, you're bathing minimal, maybe once a year, and then you also live in literal shit. And that's just what you can see. I mean, if you have 5-6 dogs running around, you got humans shitting in the floor, then that means you got food everywhere, you probably got drinks everywhere that's mixing with this shit. So therefore you have rodents, you have cockroaches, you have everything else, bro. Snakes,
my skin is crawling just thinking about this place.
Right? And that's just the start. And that people slept here. They slept in this place.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's said that his goal was to amass like a Charles Manson-style family, which he could commit murders and other atrocities with. This he would succeed in even kind of on a smaller scale. He didn't get to that Charles Manson level, but he was definitely committing atrocities. And he was also a liar, which isn't surprising. He told people he was from Iraq. He told people that his father was a high priest. He did have female followers similar to Charles Manson. He had 3 fiancées, quote unquote fiancées, which were female followers of his. They went by the names of Dixie, Crystal, and Amber. Amber also went by Bubbles. 2 of these 3 fiancées would later face charges as accomplices in murder. He was known to frequently sacrifice animals, mostly rabbits, but he'd also allegedly had a dead cat hanging from the tree in his yard for a period of time. When he would sacrifice these rabbits, he would spread the blood of the rabbits all over his body, according to witnesses.
Great.
Yep.
Wow.
He also bragged about killing homeless people and random strangers, which the random strangers part we know to be true on 2 instances.
But
you may be wondering what creates something like this person, Pazuzu, formerly known as John Lawson. Let's go through his childhood. He was born as John Lawson in San Francisco, California, on August 12th, 1978, and shares a birthday with Tyson Fury and John Cazale, who was actually Fredo from the Godfather series.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's two we haven't mentioned.
Yeah, for sure. We've definitely never covered this birthday. I struggled to find famous people on this one, obviously. I mean, Tyson Fury's awesome, but that's a little further down the list usually.
Yeah. Wow, yeah. We definitely haven't done this.
Yeah. Quite a size difference between those two men as well, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
If you put Tyson Fury next to Fredo, it's going to look like Tyson Fury could eat him for lunch.
Tyson Fury's huge. Yeah, I just Googled him now. I'm curious what he looks like now. He's still huge.
Yeah, he's still huge. Breaking news.
Still huge.
This birth date is, from a celebrity standpoint, is so unimpressive that actually, sadly, Pazuzu could probably make this list and actually be notable on this day. It was almost entirely TikTok stars and shit that were like 14 years old. Not surprising.
Oh god, yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. But if you Google Pazuzu or Algarad, that's all you find is stuff about Pazuzu for like 2 to 3 pages.
Oh yeah,
of links. That's insane. Like me and Lauren were talking about how we were trying to find the definition or the
where he got Algarad from.
Yeah. And we can't even find where it started, where it began, what culture, what it is. We can't find anything. It's probably just from some movie or some shit, and he thought it sounded good together.
I want to say he told investigators that it was God in Arabic or something like that. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. But he this case, because of how dramatic it is and the way he looked and everything, kind of just dwarfs the references that he got his name from. He became the most popular Algarad, I guess you could say. Sadly, just by being a fucking nut job.
Yep.
So, as we mentioned, he was born in San Francisco in 1978. And his parents had a rocky relationship from the start. They moved back and forth from North Carolina to California during his early years, and they would get divorced when young John Lawson, or Pazuzu, was about 5. And he ended up in Clemens, North Carolina, in the custody of his mother, who would raise him from 5 on. And he would keep communication with his father over the phone or letters for a while until he was about 13. We'll talk more about that. But his father not being around certainly played a role in what he would become. It seemed to affect him greatly. But he was known by most early on as a pleasant child. He played football and baseball. His neighbor, who babysat him from ages 5 through 9, Carmen Dube, said that she loved him and that he was a good young boy. She did, however, mention his obsession with dark entertainment. There was something he just was drawn to darkness from an early age, which is kind of weird. It didn't seem like anything really pushed him in that direction. He just was just taken by it. As a young boy, he was obsessed with dressing as a vampire, and his neighbor mentioned how it definitely struck her as odd that he wanted to be a vampire so bad. I get kids act out. My son loves to be in costumes all the time. Yeah, but just the choice that of really trying to become a vampire at a young age.
I don't think it's that crazy as far as being a child and being obsessed with darker things, because it's your first introduction to these things.
Yeah.
You're curious, right? You want to know, you want that Band-Aid ripped off, I think, as a kid. But I think the fact that he was allowed to continue to dive into these things, and there were no barriers, there were no restrictions. There weren't like, okay, maybe you're not ready for this yet. I don't think there was much of that in his childhood. I think after his father left, I think he kind of ruled. In his household, he
dominated for sure. Like his mother, was almost afraid of him even when he was a young child. Right. He was physically abusive to her, as we'll see, before the age of 10. So he definitely ran the roost around the house.
Exactly.
And he incessantly watched horror films like The Exorcist and things like that, as well as dressed up as a vampire. And as I just kind of briefly mentioned, amazingly, at the age of 8, John's mother put him in a mental hospital for a brief time due to him physically abusing her on a regular basis. The neighbor, Carmen, was interviewed in this docuseries, and she said that, she felt that was, terrible parenting on the part of John's mother, Cynthia, that she put him in a mental institution at that age. And she went to visit him, and she just felt terrible for him, apparently.
That's the babysitter, right?
Yeah, the next door neighbor and babysitter.
Who said that he was a good kid from 5 to 9? But maybe he was good for her. Sometimes kids behave for other people.
He seemed to have no respect for his mother at all. This would go on throughout this entire story. When he was well into his 20s and even into his 30s, he was still abusive, physically and mentally to his mother.
He probably blamed her for his father leaving.
That's possible.
You know? Yeah, to some extent, he probably felt like that, and then she also felt guilty, so she felt like she was having to make it up to him for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And so by doing that, she let him run over her.
Yeah. So by the age of 13, he had lost all contact with his father, and this really messed with him, and he allegedly regularly discussed killing himself to his neighbor and friend, and he discussed in detail how he would do it, which is like the next step, you know.
Yeah.
So his mother, Cynthia, began buying him 12 packs of beer daily because he was, you know, depressed and whatnot. Great idea. Great parenting there. You know?
Yeah, because he's like 13 at this time.
Yeah. Around the age of 13, she began buying him 12 packs of beer daily to calm him down, quote unquote.
That'll calm him down. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely calm him down and giving him fucking alcohol addiction before he's able to drive.
I feel like this president got set early on when he was, you know, maybe 5, 6 years old, where he was demanding things from his mother and she just always gave it to him. And he was an only child, and it just spiraled out of control, and she just began to play this submissive role in their relationship. And she wasn't being a mother, she was being a friend.
She didn't want to lose her other friend.
Yes. And maybe she was lonely because she had,
Yep.
gotten divorced and whatnot. And young John Lawson just started to dominate their relationship and get whatever he wanted from her, and therefore had no respect for her either.
Right. Makes sense.
He would do poorly in school, being held back in 6th and 9th grade before dropping out of school entirely. He was known while he was in school to come in drunk daily and was called Turd Boy by classmates due to his poor hygiene. Classmates said that he literally smelled like poop. That's why they called him Turd Boy, shockingly.
Well, that would fuck with you. But I mean, is he doing this on purpose at this time? You know,
It seems like it. I mean, he had a home that he could shower in, so
yeah. And he's 6th to 9th grade. So let's say he's in 9th grade, and they're calling him Turd Boy. I mean, at 14, 15 years old, man, you got to know. Like my daughter's 14, and she knows when she needs to shower. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
I know every kids are different. Boys and girls are different at that age, whatever, and they have different priorities. But yeah, I still think this was by choice. I don't think his home situation was that bad at 13, 14 for him to be smelling like literal shit.
Right.
This was by choice, and he probably got off on that. He probably didn't want any friends anyways.
I think he was just drunk all the time and didn't give a damn. That's all it is.
Well, there you go. That's simple enough.
Yeah.
I mean, and if at this time, he's been drinking for what, 2-3 years possibly, consistently.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so matters became worse for him when in his mid-teens, John's mother remarried a man named Johnny James. Needless to say, young John was not a fan of Johnny, and they fought nonstop. Neighbors recounted them screaming at each other, a lot of, you're not my father, and a lot of that. During these years when John Lawson, it was during these years when John Lawson became Pazuzu, legally changing his name in 2002 in his early 20s, and demanded that his mother end her relationship with Johnny James. And once again, she would listen to her son's demands and choose her son over Johnny James, and told Johnny that he had to go, kicked him out.
Man, I wonder if he changed his name just because he had the same name as Johnny, and he was like, "This is the last fucking straw. I hate this dude. We cannot we cannot have the same name."
Exactly. There can be only one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it seems like after the stepdad was kicked out, Johnny James, it seemed like this really began like the reign of terror of Pazuzu, where this gave him all the power. He once again, it was his choice what happened in that household. His mother was
That's right.
sequestered to the back of the home in her bedroom at that point, and then this house just became his playhouse, his dungeon,
His playground, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the irony is that the authorities largely looked the other way when it came to Pazuzu. You would think they would want to go after this demonic figure in their community, but they largely looked the other way. No charges were ever brought up on him for many of the instances of animal abuse that people had witnessed, nor did they take seriously the reports in 2009 that he had bodies buried in his backyard. They looked the other way several times, where they went and talked to him, and they did half-ass searches of his property, even though multiple people were coming forward and saying, there are dead bodies buried in this man's backyard. We know him. He's told us. He's bragging about it. And they would go and do very little about it for years, sadly, even though there were multiple missing people from their community.
I think there was a combination of fear and denial about Pazuzu in this little community. I mean, in I think it was part 2 of the documentary, I remember when one of the detectives was describing going into the house and what he saw from the outside, and even describing it, he still looked petrified.
Yeah.
You could tell that this is probably the worst shit he's ever seen, and it's worse than any shit he ever thought he would see.
Yeah,
on
well,
the police force.
when you're deeply religious, as a lot of the people in this community, like these police officers, I'm sure, where they're not
Yes.
watching horror movies, they're not indulging in that like demonic culture stuff very often. I would think.
No.
They're very wholesome lifestyles. You know, it's like PG films and things like that, and
they also don't want to believe that this type of thing is in their community.
you know, like this stuff wouldn't shock us. You know what I mean? Like,
No,
wouldn't surprise us
no.
one bit.
No, if I saw a front door, like the front door on Pazuzu's,
Yeah.
I'm like, there's some shit going on in that house.
Right.
That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the place.
Yeah.
There's some serious shit going down. Whether it's illegal or not, there's something weird going on.
I'd be
And then when you
curiously
have all the
interested.
tips
Like, I want
called
to see
in.
what's in here.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be scared. I mean, assuming he's, you know, everybody's out of the house and it's just time to like go through it and whatnot. I'd want a
Right,
hazmat
especially
suit,
if-
but I'd also want to go in.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, give me the proper gear, you know, suit me up, give me
Yeah,
the
let's
mask,
do this.
respirator and all that shit. And yeah, let me see what's in here.
Right. It's like a treasure hunt for turds.
Yeah. You're gonna find some treasure, all right.
Oh yeah. So to change the subject to a darker part, let's talk about Josh Wetzler, who was one of Pazuzu's victims, who was completely innocent, and it's just a sad story all around on this one. So Stacy Carter was 25 years old when she met 22-year-old Josh Wetzler in Olympia, Washington in 1999. She was traveling through the area. He lived in Olympia at the time, and the two fell in love. They were both kind of good souls, I'd say. Like they like to travel. They like to meet people that were different, like outside the
Yes.
norm, but in a good way. You know, they were the type you
Yeah.
might see on a hiking trail, or you know, maybe doing a little bit of psychedelics or whatever, just like exploring what different parts of what life has to offer.
Right. That's the vibe I got too.
Yeah, they fell in love and they moved to North Carolina. And Josh would soon enroll in school where he learned to shoe horses. They loved horses. That was also a common thing with the two of them. And in 2002, they fulfilled their dream by buying a property in Mocksville where they planned to open an entire equine center. So they wanted to do rehab for horses that had been injured and things like that, and training for people with horses. However, they got in over their heads with the construction project of this property and weren't able to continue. Also, the 2008 financial crisis didn't help. That's around the time that they foreclosed on their property, which happened to a lot of people
That was a
during that
brutal
time, sadly.
time.
Yeah, and of course the bankers got bailed out, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
Soon after this, their son Jared was born, and they would end up splitting. Unfortunately, they just the stress of a baby and losing their dream property and all of that. They had to split, and I don't know. She always had the idea that they were going to get back together. Stacy was still very much in love with Josh Wetzler. It just they needed a break. It was all too much, and I think she always imagined that they were going to get back together. However, Josh's life kind of took a turn in the wrong direction when he was arrested shortly after them. He was living in a trailer. She had moved and was working on a different farm and had her own place with her baby. And he, while in the trailer, was selling mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms, and he was getting them delivered to his trailer in the mail. And that's how police found these mushrooms in the mail, which made it a federal crime, and he would end up being arrested for a felony charge of drug possession. So,
Yep.
definitely sent his life on a different path and made things a lot harder for him to find work and things like that. Stacy said, despite his troubles, Wetzler was a wonderful dad and a super nice guy. Wetzler couldn't be put in a box. He was very outspoken and very much into animal welfare, she said, which is one of the reasons he stopped shoeing horses and switched to hoof trimming rather than shoeing, because shoeing, some people say that it's unfair to the animals, that it's cruel.
Right.
She last saw Josh in 2009, and he'd been working around the Renaissance Festival. The festival organizers wanted him to travel with them, but he was on probation, which prevented him from doing so. And he would disappear in July of 2009. However, people weren't aware that he didn't disappear upon his own accord. He didn't have a ton of people in his life. Stacy was one of the main figures, and she didn't report him missing because she thought that he was in hiding from the law. being
Right.
on
She
probation
thought
and
she was
whatnot.
going to be doing him. Yeah, she thought she would be doing him a disservice by reporting him missing
Exactly.
or finding him. Yeah, she thought because a lot of the community knew about his arrest at this time, and they thought, well, he's probably just hiding. He's on the run from the law. He's gotten into something else, and he'll show up eventually.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it wasn't the case.
No. Yeah. So she assumed Wetzler, like we said, had absconded from probation and left on his own accord. Quote, I didn't hear from him. I told Jared, I think your dad went for a long trip and there's no phone. Because obviously they had a young son that was asking where his dad was all the time. That was definitely a sad part of the story. It never occurred to Stacy to report Wetzler missing, she said, until he hadn't called his mother on her birthday in early 2010. And at that point, it had been nearly 7 months since she'd seen him. And she felt it was time to finally call and report him missing at that point because he would never not talk to his mom on her birthday. Apparently he was, like we said, a good guy.
What kind of animal are you?
Yeah, exactly. So finally, on February 15th, 2010, Stacy reports Josh missing to the police 7 months after she'd last seen him. Amazingly, in one of the many instances of kind of shoddy police work, in my opinion, in this case, police say they tell Stacy that they had found his car sitting in a parking lot with the keys in the ignition 7 months prior. The last time she had seen him 7 months ago.
No big deal.
They had found his car with the keys in it and didn't think to report, this odd situation to anyone like his baby mama or anything like that. Like it's not important.
Right. Yeah. Because people just always leave their car with the keys in it.
Yeah, just sitting in a parking lot.
Yeah, just sitting in a parking lot. That's safe practice.
Yeah.
Right.
And also by now the police had already been contacted in regards to a murder involving the infamous Pazuzu in the area. And let's go through a couple of these. So by the time they get Josh reported missing, they've already been told several times that Pazuzu had killed someone and that there was a body in the backyard. And so let's go through those. What were you saying?
I was going to say, do you think that the crowd that was coming in and making these claims because is the reason why they weren't taken serious? Because a lot of these people were acquaintances and friends of Pazuzu who were in the outer edges.
Yeah, they were pariahs themselves.
They were sketchy people. Like if Pazuzu is Satan, these people look like demons to this sheriff's office. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, for sure. I think that was part of it. For sure. They didn't give their testimony any clout because of who they were and who they were hanging out with.
Because of what they looked like.
Yeah.
Because of a lot of these people didn't even have records. It's just what they looked like.
Right.
That's sad.
Yeah. So on August 3rd, Tarina Billings, a neighbor of Pazuzu's and daughter of Alan Billings, may have helped, Alan Billings, her father, who may have helped dispose of Josh's body, reported that Pazuzu had murdered someone and bragged about it. She told police that the body was in Pazuzu's backyard. Supposedly, an officer had gone to Pazuzu's house and told him that there had been reports of murder at his house. It's always, the way that investigators go about it,
Right. You kill somebody?
Yeah, we heard you killed somebody.
Oh, no. No. He said no.
All right.
Wrap it up, fellas.
I guess rumors are rumors, huh?
Rumors are rumors.
You have a nice day, Mr. Pazuzu.
Oh, my God. It wasn't far from that. I can probably guarantee you.
They just couldn't wait to get off his fucking property because they were just...
Oh, I know, right? Sorry to bother you, sir. Hail Satan. Right. Goodbye.
So, of course, Pazuzu denied it when he was, hit with these accusations from police. And when they asked to take a look around his property, he said no, and they left, and that was that. And,
there you go.
Yeah. So I believe that was in August of 2009, well before Stacy had reported Josh missing. And this wasn't the only report they had received. They'd also received an anonymous Crime Stopper tip that Pazuzu had killed and buried a man in his backyard. With that, they did absolutely nothing. They didn't even go and try to talk to him on that occasion. They just... there was an officer on the docuseries trying to excuse the behavior. It's like, well, we get a lot of tips, and we, a lot of them are just unfounded and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, this is the second one in regards to this.
Yeah. Do you always get a lot of tips that say the exact same thing?
Right.
That's what I can't understand.
Yep. And then there was Sylvia LeBeau, who was the preacher's daughter, and had become an acquaintance of Pazuzu. She had met him in the fall of 2009, a few months after Josh Wetzler's disappearance. She was friends with Amber, a.k.a. Bubbles, who was one of the fiancés of Pazuzu, and that's how she came to be in the same, presence as this evil figure. She'd have been invited over to Pazuzu's house by Bubbles, her good friend, to meet him and give her thoughts on him. What could you imagine she would have to say?
Right?
He seems like a pleasant guy. He smells of feces and is,
He seems nice. Right. Like, what do you tell your friend when you first meet fucking Rob Zombie?
Get the fuck away from this guy.
Right. It was too late at that point.
Oh,
she
yeah,
was infatuated.
She was already a part of a murder at that point.
Oh yeah, that's true. She was implicated in other ways. Yeah.
So Pazuzu, upon having Sylvia come over to his home, wasted no time about bragging about the body chopped up in pieces and covered in cat litter in his basement, which explained the smell of death in his house. Pazuzu and Crystal Matlock, supposedly they bragged about, had trapped the man in the basement, starved him for days before shooting him 8 times and chopping up his body. They showed her parts of this stuff on a VHS tape that they had. So they bring over what a first impression Sylvia gets of Pazuzu. Immediately he puts in a tape, and him and Bubbles are sitting down with Sylvia and watching this tape of basically maggots and everything. She said she wanted to vomit. This tape was so filthy. I'm not sure if it actually included the body of Josh Wetzler in it or not, but there was footage they showed of Josh, I believe, walking down the stairs into the basement. So it was almost like a snuff film that they showed her.
Yeah, and it was like almost half a porno at the beginning from what she described. It's like maybe it was a sex tape they taped over or something.
Yeah.
Like it was weird. It was like you saw a lot of skin and then you see some darkness and whatnot.
Do you think Bubbles the whole time to Sylvia is like, isn't he nice? Isn't he a nice guy?
Isn't he nice? I mean, look at his teeth. I find it attractive.
Yeah.
God.
So Sylvia just obviously couldn't wait to get the fuck out of this house, and was just amazed that Pazuzu could kill someone and just openly brag about it to someone he just met. And so she, not long after this instance where she first meets him and hears this story, she's at a party and coincidentally was driven home by a friend of Stacey Carter's. This is just one of those crazy coincidences. She happens to be at the same party as a close friend of Stacey Carter, which is the girlfriend of the missing Josh Wetzler.
Right.
And so she's driving home, and she said she was high on mushrooms, and she was recounting the story of being at Pazuzu's house and him bragging about killing this man named Josh. Mm-hmm. And she's saying this to this woman who's driving her home, and the woman goes, "Oh my God, you have to talk to my friend Stacy, because her boyfriend and the father of her child is missing, and his name is Josh."
Oh my God.
Yeah, just a crazy, oh my God moment, Stacy said that she didn't, this Sylvia goes to see Stacy. First, she tries to go to the police and tell them what she had heard. She even tries to get a recording of Pazuzu bragging about killing this. She gets some like crappy audio where you can mainly just hear her, and she takes it to the police, and they're like, "Yeah, there's not much we can do with this." So she does the next best thing and goes to see Stacy to tell her, what she had heard.
Right, because she gets audio not from Pazuzu, but she gets audio from one of Pazuzu's friends. I think it was Nick who told her that Pazuzu killed. So I could kind of get the law enforcement's point there, because they're going, "Well, is this Pazuzu that I'm listening to?" And then she would be like, "Well, no, it's an acquaintance of his, a friend."
Right.
And then you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's not like she got him confessing; she got a friend of his talking about.
That being said, this goes against what we talked about earlier from, these people that are going to the police, they're attached to Pazuzu. They're like him, they're kind of living this dark lifestyle. This is not that. Sylvia is the preacher's daughter. She only, met Pazuzu on just because her friend was dating him or whatever, but she's a clean cut. Like, she does not fit the mold of a Pazuzu follower or friend of Pazuzu. She's actually, religious herself. She's a wholesome young woman, and now she's going to the police and telling them, what she had heard with detail, and they still once again brush it off.
Now, I don't know what she meant by this, but I do remember in the interview she said she's like, "I didn't know what the police would think of me," she said, "because I looked crazy at the time." So I don't know if maybe she was kind of in that or dabbling in that.
I think she meant she looked crazy because she's bringing this insane story, and she's trying to give them this audio recording, which is
okay.
You can barely understand it.
It could be interpreted that way as well.
And also, she didn't know of all the other reports that had been made regarding this. So maybe she's thinking this is out of nowhere,
Ah, yes. Good point. Good point. She has, there's no reinforcements. She doesn't know that.
She obviously hung out with some people who were in the scene and whatnot, but I just didn't picture. I think she did have like blue hair at the time, so maybe she wasn't as. I mean, who cares? But in a religious community, I could see maybe the people looking at that weird. But
yeah, honestly, especially a preacher's kid, I could see a preacher's kid dabbling in this. Preacher's kids are not what they seem, bro.
Yeah,
that's the truth.
Generally,
it's because preacher's kids they see the preacher at home. They see the man behind the mask. They see everything that happens all the time, and so preacher kids usually aren't as naive as people think.
Yeah.
Put it to you that way. And a lot of times they'll dabble in some pretty crazy shit just to get out of the tight boxes that they feel like they've been raised in.
You don't think God ever farted?
Oh, all the time, man. What do you think? What do you call thunder? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So the next best thing, she went to the police. She tried to report it. They brushed it off once again. So she goes to see Stacy because she's heard about this Josh figure being killed at Pazuzu's house. He's bragged about it to her, and she knows now that this woman Stacy has an ex-boyfriend and father of her child who Josh has been missing, and she doesn't know where he is. And so she goes to talk to her and maybe shed some light on what may have happened to her ex. And so then Stacy, having learned this, goes to the police, and finally the police execute a search warrant on Pazuzu's property on February 23rd, 2010. They do it right this time, or at least you would think, but they obviously don't because they don't find anything. It's amazing to me. It's amazing to me. Supposedly they brought cadaver dogs, and we know at this time there's at least one body in the backyard. I think there's two at this point in Pazuzu's backyard, and they find nothing somehow.
That's because they're looking for drugs and money, some stuff they can benefit off of. Right. Probably. They ain't looking for dead bodies. They ain't looking for
also,
sick,
I think they almost
shit.
just don't want to dig in that deep.
That's what I'm saying.
They almost just don't want to know.
They don't want it.
Yeah. They probably also think, well, if someone was killed by Pazuzu, they probably were in this lifestyle, and what do you expect? You roll with the dogs, you get the fleas, as you like to say.
Yeah. Yeah, and they like to commit sacrifices, and
there may have been an element of that, kind of like with a lot of the successful serial killers we cover, where they kill sex workers and police just don't care that much. There may have been an element of if he did kill somebody, it was somebody in his circle that probably deserved it, type of thing.
Oh, that's a good point. And he killed people that he wasn't really connected to on a deep level, like they were acquaintances at most.
Yeah, that's the sad part. Is like he literally was targeting like strangers essentially.
Well, that's the best tactic.
Yeah.
They can't tie you to it. There's no crime of passion. And in small towns, I mean, that's what they're looking for first. Most of the murders that are happening are crimes of passion or revenge or something like that, Yep. It's hard, even nowadays, it's hard to pin down a random crime out of nowhere.
Yep. Yeah, so amazingly, they've had, 3-4 reports that all match up as far as Pazuzu bragging about killing a man named Josh. He's buried in the backyard. They execute the search warrant on his property, and they somehow find nothing, and just on he goes. In May of 2010, he would be arrested and accused of putting his mother in a chokehold at their home. And while awaiting sentencing for the assault of his mother, he was involved in another killing. This one was a blind man. This is a terrible story. In October of 2010, Pazuzu, then 31, would be charged with accessory after the fact of involuntary manslaughter, which is just despicable to me that this only got charged as manslaughter when they clearly targeted and killed a blind man.
Yes.
That they had just basically met at a gas station, him and Nick. So the charge was related to the shooting death of Joseph Emmerich Chandler, a blind man whose body was found in September of 2010 on a boat ramp in Donna Park in Yadkin County. 20-year-old Nicholas Pasquale Rizzi was charged with involuntary manslaughter. He was the one that allegedly pulled the trigger on Joseph. Algarad was accused of misleading investigators and allowing the suspect of the shooting to stay at his home. So this was one of his friends/followers, this Nicholas character. And apparently, Pazuzu and Nicholas had been at this gas station. They came across, just bad timing, man. Joseph happened to be at the gas station at the same time, and somehow they lured him out to this secluded area where they shot the man. He was smoking a cigarette, allegedly, and they just walked up and shot him in the head. And somehow this just ends up being charged with manslaughter. Doesn't make any sense to me. It sounds like first-degree premeditated murder to me.
Yeah, and you know what else enforces that claim a whole lot is the fact that they used 2 guns. They had 2 guns.
Yeah.
Okay. They took a shotgun out there and tried to blow his head off with a shotgun, and it jammed. So one of them, I'm assuming Nick, went all the way back to the car, got a separate gun, and came back and shoot him. How the fuck is that an accident?
Right. It's amazing to me. And he was a black man. You wonder if there was a little racial element to this with the light charges that were given. It was really sad. His mother was in the docuseries, and she was just torn up about it.
She was hardly even
they murdered my
included.
son for nothing,
Yeah. She was hardly even included in anything, in the investigation, in the information.
Oh, yeah. She didn't even get to be present for the trial, which was basically just over in a flash.
Absolute bullshit.
It was messed up, man.
And what he got is even more bullshit.
Yeah. So psychiatrists who interviewed Pazuzu said that he had schizophrenia, agoraphobia, and alcoholism, but found him mentally competent to stand trial. And, as we said, this is clearly premeditated murder of a blind man. And regardless, Pazuzu and Nicholas, they had led Joseph out to that secluded area and killed him. And yet they basically got a slap on the wrist for this.
Yeah.
Then in August of 2011, Pazuzu would plead guilty to a misdemeanor assault on a female, his mother. That was the instance where he was arrested for choking his mother. He would end up getting 12 months of probation for that one. So that's this is amazing. He was awaiting sentencing for that when he killed Joseph. And once again, he gets another slap on the wrist.
Yep, because he wasn't directly involved.
Yep. Then in September of 2011, one of Pazuzu's girlfriends, Amber Birch, was accused of slapping and attempting to choke his mother. Birch was later convicted and sentenced to 12 months of probation. 2 months after the conviction, she was charged with assault and battery, with police alleging that she had hit Pazuzu in the face. So quite a household here. Lots of hitting and choking going on back and forth.
Lots of hitting and choking, and not the good kind.
Yeah. Right. Not the fun kind.
I think, not the fun kind. I think Pazuzu put Amber up to this, right? Because he already got in trouble for choking his mother, right?
Oh, yeah.
He pleaded guilty to that. So he can't have that again because
So
he's on probation for 12
he
months.
sicks one of his fiancées on her.
He sicks his number one fiance on her, Amber, Bubbles.
Yep.
That's what he does. It's just funny that she takes the exact same approach,
Yep. So finally, the bodies would be discovered on October 5th, 2014, more than 4 years after the first quote-unquote search of Pazuzu's property. The Forsyth County Sheriff's Department would execute a search warrant at 2749 Nob Hill Drive in Clemens, the Pazuzu household. After more reports of bodies in the backyard had come in, they just at a certain point they're just like, okay, how many reports can we get before there has to be something to this? I guess Matt Flowers, the punk rocker and war vet, had reported the same thing to police as well. And this time they would actually dig in the backyard and they would find the skeletal remains of two men buried in shallow graves in the backyard. Both had been killed in 2009, and the bodies would be identified as Joshua Wetzler, of course, who we have talked about, and the other would be Tommy Dean Welch, who we'll talk more about in a minute. Both men had disappeared in 2009. Arrest warrants allege that Pazuzu had killed Wetzler in July of 2009 and that Amber Birch had helped him to bury the body. Warrants also allege that Birch killed Welch in 2009, the other victim, Tommy Welch, before Pazuzu had helped her with the burial. Autopsies would later say that both men were shot in the head. Rusty Welch was Tommy Welch's brother. He said that family members had plans to meet at Rusty's apartment in Clemens the day that his brother disappeared. Tommy had been walking from the apartment he shared with his mother on Cook Avenue in Clemens back to Rusty's apartment on Colonial Arms. And once again, this was just wrong place, wrong time. Came across Pazuzu and one of his followers out in town, and they took this as an opportunity to kill an innocent soul. He was not connected to Pazuzu and his, bizarre lifestyle in any way. He was just walking down the street and they came across him.
Place, wrong time.
They somehow lured him away. I don't know if they were offering, whatever it was, free beer or cigarettes or whatever it was that they would use to lure people to secluded areas. But he was basically taken away and murdered. He'd been at Rusty's apartment earlier, his brother, but had gone home to fix a broken stereo. When they got to Tommy's apartment later, the stereo was there, fixed, and with one of Tommy's favorite Michael Jackson albums in it, but no Tommy. Missing persons report had been filed the next day on October 4th, 2009. Quote, "We all had plans," Rusty said. "We was going to sit down and have a good night. Rusty, now 30, living in Rockingham County, worked at Domino's at the time and was bringing home a pizza. So they were all going to have a good time. And obviously Tommy, just came across the wrong people at the wrong time. And so, Tommy never showed up that evening. And over the next 24 hours, he says, I had a gut feeling that something was wrong, Rusty said. Somewhere on that short walk, Tommy encountered Pazuzu and Amber Birch. Pazuzu and Amber Nicole Birch, then 24, both of them at home, were each charged with 1 count of murder and 1 count of accessory after the fact for the murder of Tommy. And so they finally, this thing, they finally do a legit search. And you have to think that maybe lives could have been saved, because who knows what else, that Pazuzu and his followers were out doing. It seemed like they would just wander around town, and anybody they came across, he was known to brag about killing multiple homeless people, and I almost don't doubt that he may have done that, to be honest.
Me either. I don't doubt that at all. He probably just left them where they were.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't imagine he's walking around with Amber or, one of his other followers, Crystal or Dixie, and they come across a homeless man laying there like they're not going to do something to him. I can't imagine a scenario in which they wouldn't.
Me either. They got off on that shit at this point, man.
Yeah.
It was exciting for them.
And police just being lazy, not doing a legitimate search, not getting a search warrant of that property years prior may have, caused other people to die, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Or at least be assaulted and hurt. And
Right.
other animals to be hurt, and you name it. So in April of 2015, after Pazuzu was behind bars, crews would demolish Pazuzu and his mother Cynthia's home that they had lived in for all those years, and all that the atrocities had taken place in. And the town basically made it like a whole day. It was like a big celebration. They all sat out with their lawn chairs and watched the house be destroyed.
I bet you would. If you was in that neighborhood, thank God.
Yeah.
Right? It's just that dark spot, that one house that no kids want to ride by. You know what I'm saying? You lock your doors when you ride by that fucking house. It's just creepy, man. I'm sure they were ready for it to be gone, but it looked like any other suburban neighborhood.
Oh yeah, it looked like
Carolina.
a typical brick house,
Yes. I mean, it looked just like this country suburb area that I live in. It looks the same, bro.
Mm-hmm.
It's scary. It's everywhere. People like that are everywhere.
Yeah. So May 13th, 2015, Pazuzu was transferred from the Forsyth County Jail to Central Prison in Raleigh for safekeeping. It was the second time that he'd been transferred for safekeeping since his arrest on October 5th, 2014. A transfer for safekeeping can be for one of 3 reasons: security, mental health disorders, or medical conditions, officials said. So he was on suicide watch, essentially. He had been attempting to commit suicide from behind bars right away after he was arrested. And eventually he would succeed, because if you're determined enough, and you can only keep so many ways for someone to kill himself away from them, like bed sheets and anything, sharp items and things like that. But he had sharp items in his mouth, for one, and he was very determined to accomplish this. And then October 28th, 2015, Pazuzu Algarad was found dead in his cell at 4:20 a.m. at Central Prison in Raleigh. An autopsy would later say that he had died from severe blood loss caused by a deep wound to a major vessel in his left arm at the pit of his elbow. So the speculation is that
he could have easily
bit this
that
hole in his arm with those sharp teeth that he had.
Holy shit.
Yeah. It's a pretty intense way to do it.
Oh my God. Yeah, you right about that.
Yeah.
That's an understatement.
His death
to be able to bite your own fucking artery out right there. Bro.
Right.
Gross.
His death would be ruled a suicide, and authorities said that he had used something to cut himself. It was never clear what instrument was used. Items from his cell sent to the North Carolina office of the chief medical examiner included an electric razor and a clear, unlabeled bottle filled with red fluid. But I don't know. I don't know if an electric razor would do that. I honestly feel like he bit that hole in his arm.
Electric razor, if you're able to take the little metal plate, the guard that doesn't move off, then you just have exposed blade moving back and forth. So, I mean, obviously it would be extremely painful and messy.
How do you let someone who's on suicide watch have an electric razor? I don't understand that.
I don't know. He did the world
like, is shaving all that important? Like, can't they have him shave when there's a guard present or something like that? Give him the razor to do it while they're there, and then take it back away. I don't know.
Yeah, or why aren't they shaved? Like, I mean, in like the military. I mean, you go to boot camp, they shave you. Like, you can't shave the prisoners. if
Right.
they need to be
Chad
shaved.
Natz, the reporter from the Camel City Dispatch who wrote the story on Pazuzu, had real issues with, like the fact that, like, how was he able to commit suicide when he was supposed to be on like 24-hour watch and all this stuff? Like, how did he's alluding that like they let this happen or, maybe helped him in some way or whatever to commit suicide. But
I mean, do you think it's
I don't
so
think
much
we'll
of a
ever know.
tragedy that he's gone?
No.
I mean, yeah,
Absolutely not.
right? I don't know why we're trying to protect him. I mean, this motherfucker doesn't care. He's not paying for his crimes in prison. He just doesn't care.
right.
He's beyond that.
Yep. So on March 9th, 2017, there was still a couple of his followers that still had to pay for their crimes, their atrocities, their parts in these murders. Amber Birch, then 27, pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, armed robbery, and accessory after the fact to murder. She was ordered to serve a minimum of 30 years and 8 months in prison with a maximum sentence of 39 years and 2 months. So Amber goes down. Forsyth County prosecutor said she used a .22 caliber rifle to shoot Tommy Welch twice as he sat on a couch at the home that they shared on Nob Hill in Clemens. So they somehow had gotten Tommy Welch. They had found him walking down the street and gotten him back to Pazuzu's house. I don't know how they did it, whether they put the gun on him and threatened him and made him go back, or they offered him, free booze or drugs or whatever it was. I don't know. I don't want to speculate on Tommy, what he did or whatnot, and call him a drug addict if he wasn't. But they somehow got him back to Pazuzu's house where they shot him on the couch. And it's interesting because it seemed like Pazuzu always had others do his bidding for him, right? In a very Charles Manson way. Like he seemed like he had Amber kill these people, or who was it, Nick, that he had kill.
Nick, yep. He killed the blind man.
Yep. And so, yeah, he was almost a coward in that way, where he wasn't even committing these crimes. He was having other people do it for him.
That's right. He's fucked up, man.
Prosecutors also said that 3 months before that, her boyfriend, Pazuzu, used the same rifle to fatally shoot Joshua Wetzler. Now, whether he did it or one of his followers actually shot him, I don't know that we'll ever know either.
Yeah, Joshua, he's the blind guy. I think Nick shot him.
No, Josh Wetzler was not the blind guy.
Oh, no, yeah, you're right. Josh had the family.
Josh
He had
was the one that they had allegedly locked in the
Yes.
basement and starved him for days and basically tortured him.
Yes.
There was talks
Yes.
like, what was it?
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Crazy Dave Adams was talking about how at one point Pazuzu, he was hanging out over at his house, and Pazuzu was like, if you see anybody come up from the basement, don't let them get out. Basically, he was telling him, like, I have someone locked in there. Just don't let them get out. And
and Crazy Dave acted like he didn't care or whatever, right? I mean,
he also kind of rolled his eyes like, okay, sure, Pazuzu. Like, he thought Pazuzu was just trying to act scarier than he was. He supposedly he didn't believe him. And he's like, I never heard anything down there. I never went and looked. I just, left it at that. It's like, I don't know.
I feel like that's an easy way to cop out.
I was going to say, I think Crazy Dave saw a little bit more than he's alluding to, but
I think he did too.
I wouldn't say anything either if I were him, I guess, because he's just implicating himself in murder at that point.
Right.
Investigators allege that the body stayed in the house for several weeks before Pazuzu called Birch, who was in South Carolina, to ask her to come back and help her bury Wetzler. I don't think he asked. He ordered people to help him bury these bodies, or else he said he would kill them. There was no choice in the matter.
Yep. He did the same thing to Crazy Dave when he was on the couch. He questioned him about helping him bury a body, and he was like, "You're going to help me dig a hole." He didn't say bury a body, but he said, "You're going to help me dig a hole in the backyard, or I'm going to kill you." He had a sword in his hand or something. Yeah.
Yep. Seemed like he wanted to implicate as many people as he could in these crimes, so that if he went down, they all went down with him. In a very selfish manner like that.
Oh yeah, of course.
And also so that they couldn't go and rat on him. I'm sure that was a big part of it. It's like, well, if you helped me bury the body, you're not going to go to police because you're going to go down too.
Exactly.
And that would allow him to just go around bragging, because he had so many people tied into these crimes with him that they couldn't go to authorities, and he could just go on bragging about how he had done it, and maybe they would be more likely to help him do it in the future if they're already so deep into this with him.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then he got away with it for so long, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they kept coming to his house
5 years?
and walk around and like, oh, so you say you didn't do anything. All right, okay. Well, have a good day, Pazuzu.
I mean, he felt like he was untouchable.
Yep. He kind of was
really
for years,
Yeah. Yeah, he was. Right there in plain sight.
Yeah. So there was one more that had to go down. June 5th, 2017, Crystal Matlock, then 30, pleaded guilty in Forsyth Superior Court to conspiracy to accessory after the fact to first-degree murder. She was accused of helping bury Josh Wetzler, his body in the backyard. she would be sentenced to a minimum of 3 years and 2 months in prison with a maximum sentence of 4 years and 10 months. So her not being actually directly involved in the murder, but helping to bury the body, she would get 3 years for that. So,
Man, that's
and
I
thus
don't
would
even know if
end
that's enough.
the reign of Pazuzu Algarad.
Not soon enough, man.
I almost hate even calling him that stupid name that he created for himself.
I know, right? You just want to call him John.
Yeah, let's just. Thus ended
But-
John Lawson.
But I mean, he did legally change his name, though. It wasn't like one of those things like, I go by Pazuzu. No,
Right.
he legally changed his name. Like, it was on his birth. I mean, even the cops called him Pazuzu,
Right.
you know? So he just picked a strange name. That's all.
The demon from The Exorcist. Classic horror film.
You know what Pazuzu really could have used, bro?
Some
Some
oh my
Oh My
guy.
Guy.
I don't know.
Bro.
You know what? Oh my guy is some powerful stuff, but that would be a test, a true test to oh my guy's powers. If oh my guy could overcome the stench at Pazuzu's house.
Listen, if I had to go and look around in Pazuzu's house, I would take Oh My Guy and put it right in my fucking mustache, bro. Just right in there. Bop. And I'm good to go.
I mean, it's
This whole place
non-toxic.
smells
You really
lovely.
could probably just shove some up inside your nostrils if you had to. That's probably what I would do.
Just
Coat the inside of my nostrils with it.
Smells like coconut in here. Dreamsicle.
Pazuzu, how do you keep this place so nice and tidy? It smells
He would
fantastic.
be getting so pissed.
Yeah, I know. This place stinks. What are you talking about?
Yeah, this
It smells like shit and death in here.
right.
Does not smell like sweet pea, you asshole.
And you know it. God damn, I'm gonna have to go shit in the corner now.
I don't know, man. It smells fantastic in here, Pazuzu.
I don't know what to tell you, bro. This is such a place of light. This is beautiful. All right, guys. Well, if you don't know what the amazing light-bringing deodorant of Oh My Gaia is, let me let you in on it. It's an innovative, all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Their innovative line of deodorants inhibit the growth of odor-causing bacteria while maintaining effectiveness. At Oh My Gaia, they use only all-natural, paraben, and aluminum-free organic ingredients. And guys, there's definitely a scent for you that can cover up all the bad scents in your life, like vanilla, cherry almond, sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, Egyptian musk, coconut, dreamsicle, leather, lumberjack, honeysuckle, fireside, bergamot amber, barbershop, pear, sailor. And there's new scents being added all the time, guys, and we have our very own scent called True Crime Pine. If you don't know where to start with that one. Sponsored right here by True Crime Guys, True Crime Pine. And because you guys are True Crime Guys listeners, you can use the word creeper for 15% off your order. That's CREEPER for 15% off your order at shop_ohmygaia on Instagram or on ohmygaia.com. That's OHMYGAIA.com. There's a link below the description, guys. You won't regret it.
Check them out. Everybody's talking about them. It's fantastic.
They are. Get on it.
All right. Speaking of people talking about stuff, thank you guys who have gone and rated and reviewed the show on iTunes. We want to give a shout out to everybody who's done that since our last Freeloader episode. We did a Patreon episode last week, so we're going back 2 weeks for this. We'll talk about Patreon in a minute. First, I want to thank Definitely Not Chad in the U.S., who went and rated and reviewed the show, said, so bingeable, 5 stars, such an interesting and funny podcast about the creepiest subjects. Thank you. Then we got Alexa Bear in Las Vegas. Said, I came across this podcast when I was looking into more information about Colleen Ritzer. After listening to their coverage of the case, I decided to start at the beginning of their podcast episodes and was so excited to hear them talk about Las Vegas. I'm from Vegas, and I was pretty stoked. So shout out to Alexa Bear in my neck of the woods. Then we got Ashley Elrod in the U.S. said, you guys rock. Hate to say this, but so many true crime, all-female podcasts have creators that just annoy me. Okay. We won't go into more of that, but we feel you. You know, we're happy you found us, and yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that shout-out, Ashley Elrod. And then we got Creepy Pete 95 in Great Britain. Said, informative and easy to listen to. Great podcast. Also in the UK, it's so small, it's more north to south than any easy. I have no idea what the fuck he's talking about. It's so small, it's more north to south than easy to west. It's as narrow.
Yeah, that east to west. It's like, it's very narrow east to west, so there's not a lot of variance as far as east to west. They're talking like, for the country to change, the different areas of the UK, he's talking north and south. I guess it's easier to get up north and south.
Okay.
Because of motorways. You know how we were talking about how easy it is to get across the country east to west in America?
This is in reference to something we talked about. Because I'm like, what? I don't understand what this has to do with anything.
I know. Sometimes, depending on how old the episode is, I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
you know, we were talking before we started this. Like, you'll just get a random text about like referencing a joke we made in an episode. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I have no idea what you're talking about. That was, that was 2 years ago, but that sounds like it was funny at the time. Thank you.
But Creepy Pate, thank you very much.
Yep.
Jolly out. We got Kendra Carreria. Probably butchered your name, Kendra. Sorry. In the U.S. said, one of my favorite podcasts, 5 stars. They do the research and put in the episodes together very well. Good mix of funny and serious, and they do a good job acknowledging the victims. And, of course, great music. Thank you, Kendra.
Right on.
Then we got Ex-Death Dealer X. This guy sounds like he'd be friends with Pazuzu in the U.S.
I know, right?
I love the podcast. My fiance, oh, boy, got me into you guys. Oh, how many fiancés you got there, Death Dealer?
Yeah. How many? Which fiance? Huh?
My fiance got me into you guys recently. I've been binging, and I hope you guys keep up the great work and keep up the awesome podcast. Thanks for the best podcast I've ever heard. Thank you, Death Dealer.
Thanks, bro.
Then we got Kira from Cali in the U.S. Said the best, 5 stars. You guys make time fly. I've always been interested in crime. This podcast is easily one of the best. They go in depth and explain everything. Thank you for being number 1. All right, we'll take it.
All right, yeah, we'll take it. Thank you.
I don't think we're number 1, but I'll take it. If somebody thinks I'm number 1, that's cool, I guess.
That's right. You're number 1 to somebody.
Yeah, let's go. That freaking weirdo in New Zealand says, great music, well-researched and entertaining, 5 stars. Hey guys, long-time listener, thought it was time to send a review. Just listened to the Death from Above episode. When I was finished, I had to go back and start to listen to the intro song again because it was fire. Thanks for being such a well-researched podcast with fantastic banter. Thank you very much, that freaking weirdo in New Zealand.
Right on.
I'd love to come visit New Zealand at some point. I've talked about it many times. Looks just beautiful there.
Yeah.
Then we got 2021 RRR in the U.S. said, love this podcast and the balance between seriousness and banter. Perfect listening material for walks with my doggo. 5 stars, fire emojis. Thank you, 2021 RRR. And we got one more from Courtna in the U.S. Said I saw someone was attacking Michael on here, so I'm here saying bye, sir. Michael is great, and you're both great. Love y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Courtna. No big deal.
Michael gets far more love than hate, to be fair. So we're not worried about it. But thank you for coming to Michael's defense.
Appreciate that very much. But yeah, I just ignore him. It's all good.
Well, sometimes if you talk shit on Podbean comments, Michael will come back at you. So just so you know.
Oh yeah.
Be ready.
Well,
Be
it's
ready
not
for
really like
return
coming
fire.
back at you. I'm just giving you like a smart ass remark. Yeah. I'm not going to insult you too much.
He's usually just high and he just has fun going on there and shooting little shit back at him.
Yeah, I need to get back on Podbean, check it out, see what's going on.
Actually, it's been nothing negative on there lately, so you'll be disappointed.
Damn it! Now we're gonna have like real creepers just on there like busting our balls constantly. Right. That'd be great.
Well, if you've binged all of our free stuff on the main feed, go ahead and check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/truecrimeguys. $2 a month gets you access to our once a month Patreon-only episode. We just did that last week. If you were wondering why there wasn't a new episode on your feed, it's because we did one on Patreon, and we did one not on Scientology. It was totally not Scientology. So if you want to check that out,
we would never talk about Scientology.
No, we definitely wouldn't do that. So if you want to check that out, $2 a month gets you access to that, and like I don't know how many other episodes. We've had a Patreon page for over 3 years now, and we've done one episode a month for 3 years that's just on Patreon. So $2 a month gets you access to that. If you want even more content, you can go up to the $5 tier, get a badass gold Creep Van sticker, and get access to Just the Banter, the show that we do every week. Every Friday we jump on. We do usually. Lately, they've been at least an hour episode, and people send us questions. Patreon members send us questions, hypotheticals, would you rathers, you name it. They just ask us all kinds of silly stuff, and we answer it to our best ability. You get to learn more about us. We tell stories, talk about a little bit more about our private lives and all that stuff on there. And so, if you want to get just more of us, I guess $5 a month can get you access to that. You get everything on there, and then $10 a month. We just had another creeper combo with $10 a month patrons. We just sit back, shoot the shit with different $10 patrons and see what's going on in their lives and, get to know them better. And, Patreon, a lot to offer over there.
Just a hangout.
Yep.
Hell yeah. Tons of stuff. There's first season of Higher Thoughts is on the True Crime Guys Patreon.
Yep.
And I'm currently in the process of releasing Higher Thoughts Season 2. So
it's
if you are a
baby.
Higher Thoughts fan, it's back. I'm shooting for every other Saturday right now.
With Michael.
If you haven't noticed, I got a couple of shows going on. So every Every other Saturday right now is what I'm shooting for. So next Saturday, this coming Saturday, you're listening to this on Wednesday. This coming Saturday, there'll be Higher Thoughts episode 2 on patreon.com/S&U podcast.
Michael is what you call a prolific podcaster.
Prolific, bro.
Prolific.
Just making all kinds of content. But I'm getting people involved. I'm networking, so I have more time to do that now. So that's fun. That's what I like to do. But
once in a blue moon, Michael walks out into the daylight of the not being in the studio, and he's like a vampire in daylight.
Dude, I feel like it right now because it's so fucking hot here. Like it's so hot and humid here in the South that it's just fucking miserable during the day. It's like I go out in the mornings. That's when I get my sunshine. I go out in the mornings with my cup of coffee. I see how my gardens are doing and whatnot. Maybe take a little walk in the woods. But then after that, I'm in the studio or something. And then in the evening, go back outside again. Yep. I'm ready for the fall. But if you guys are already patrons of True Crime Guys and you've heard everything, or at least you think you've heard everything we have to offer, we have a whole other show called Strange and Unexplained, where we tackle unsolved missing persons, strange phenomena, cults, all sorts of things. It's a different format, but me and Lauren both have our own parts in that show. I bring you some facts, I bring you some information, I bring you some speculation, and then you get to hear Lauren's opinion, unbiased, unaltered by me. He studies his own sources, and you get to hear Lauren's synopsis of the case at the end. So in case you missed something, or in case I missed something, it's a good way to keep myself in check. Lauren usually picks up the slack there on the Lauren synopsis. So lots of cool stuff going on Strange and Unexplained. We release new episodes of Strange and Unexplained every Monday. And if you join Patreon, you get releases early on Thursdays, and you also get access to if on the $3 tier on Strange and Unexplained, you get early access to Strange and Unexplained episodes on Thursdays. On Mondays, you get Strange Shorts, and then every other Saturday, you get Higher Thoughts. Yep. So that's a lot of shit for $3. I put it all on the $3 tier because I wanted to make it easy for you guys who are already True Crime Guys patrons to bump on over there. It's only $3, right? $8 a month. Like say you're a $5 True Crime Guys patron, you get access to just the banter, the Patreon exclusive, the gold sticker, and then for just $3 more, you get access to 3 other shows. So it's quite a bit of content that we're putting out on a weekly basis, and it's all on Patreon, baby. If you ain't on Patreon, you're getting like half the podcast, but that's okay. It's still a good half.
We're happy you're with us in any fashion that you are. Don't ever think that you're not a creeper
doubt.
just because you're not a patron member. We love you all the same.
Hell yeah.
So check out the original and only Strange and Unexplained that matters.
That's right. Wherever you listen, search True Crime Guys in your podcast app, and you'll see it.
You'll see Strange and Unexplained with the Blossom Raptors on there.
That's right. Well, actually, I got the dinosaur skeleton now. That more matches our True Crime Guys logo. I got the theme. We got a brand going on now. So look for our branding.
I've seen it, but I guess I didn't even register with me. Oh yeah. Okay, the T-Rex skeleton. Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, there you go.
All right,
you got it.
Does that do it? Are we done rambling? We'll see you guys next week for another Freeloader episode.
Yep. Keep creeping.
All right. See you next week. Keep creeping. Have a great week.
True Crime Guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you. Sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army. We out here making murder. True Crime Guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you. Sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army. We out here making murder charming.